All right, so I think you all have to accept that we're recording, and I am going to start my slideshow. So we said that we would touch base again in about 6 months, and that's where we are at this point. To really think about what did we learn from the process of creating a new level of uh, Roma representatives, and what does that mean in terms of folks who want to move to a national certification as well. And we happen to have with us today Tiffany Gibson, who's been working on the implementer certification, and we've asked if she might give us a couple of pointers or observations as we go through this. We also have Carrie Gibson. Oh, first of all, I'm Barbara Mooney. I should start that way. And we have Carrie Gibson and PJ Davis on the call with us, who have been part of the Roma training team and can also answer questions. So um, what what we always say when we're using the Roma cycle is that we want to always start with clearly identifying what the need is. So before we jump to do something, we want to know what the need is. So the organizational standards require the use of the full Roma cycle. So whether you're using Roma or another performance management system, the expectation is that you will use the full set of tools that are called performance management, and that somebody is designated for the agency's review process that is someone that will certify or attest to the fact that the agency documents represent or prove that the agency is using the Roma principles or the performance management principles in a more generic term. So it says in the standards, Roma certified trainer or equivalent, and that's where we moved in with the Roma representatives with the concept of creating this certificate program called Roma representatives, and to use the California designation, so it'd be California Roma Rep or CARR, and the state office has approved that designation as being or equivalent for the purposes of the standard. And it's important to us to know that the Roma principles are being met through the organizational standards, and that the organizational standards use the Roma cycle in every way that they possibly can. So what you see on the screen is just an overlap of the elements of the organizational standards in Roma as a way to say, these are the things that are part of what we know as good performance management. So where in the standards do we really drill down? And so category 3 is the first one, community assessment. And this is the area, one of the areas that we spent quite a bit of time on with the Roma representatives, getting folks to understand and think about the community assessment process specifically designed for California, which the California State Office provides an excellent template and guidance on this process. So this was the first area of the organizational standards that we wanted to make sure that we were clear about. And then the strategic planning, which is, after you identify the need and you do your assessments, then you go into planning. And so the concept that there is agency-wide strategic planning happening in addition to just community action planning. But in the terms of meeting the standards, how could the Roma representative help to ensure that strategic planning was in place? And of course, category 4 which is where we find the mention of Roma specifically, but it talks about more than that. So I just want you to understand that it's about community, it's about organizational leadership, and that it's about all levels at the organization. And one of the things that we found was that the folks who applied to become and who have then became Roma representatives really came from a variety of levels of agency functioning. And so really shows that different agencies have different structures, and that we're able to be flexible enough to meet the needs of the agency regardless of their structure. So helping to understand that the community action process or system or heart, so to speak, is what will address poverty. So, what did we learn from the first process, which happened over the period starting in about the middle of August last year through the end of October? Um, we used the templates provided by the state office, and those templates were invaluable to the process of creating this level of certification, because there was an organized system that was standardized across the state. And when we learned, what we learned was that when we focused specifically on making sure that the template accurately reflected what was happening at the agency, then we could really quickly develop competence in those categories. And it doesn't have to take a long time to because the structure was already there. So that was a big lesson I think we learned. And then uh, the next the next lesson we learned was that the people who were involved told us that they weren't interested just to check off a box, and that's true Roma uh, uh, principles in action. That we want to do beyond just meeting a certain uh, a check off. So the representatives had ideas about participating in not only their agency work, but also in statewide work. And they're interested in supporting capacity building, using data as advocacy, and they wanted to be involved in relationship building so that they could really develop the power of collective action. Um, so we thought we need to be able to support how the representatives, the realm representatives, can maintain their competence over the process. And when we talk about agency capacity building, these were the two things that we came up with: is that the Roma framework really can assist in building agency capacity. That it's a clear way to provide a pathway forward, and that if Roma professionals are engaged, they can they can increase the deliberate action and the planned activities that support uh, the improvement of performance management principles. And so that's what we found out about agency capacity building. But we also found out that advocacy could be a part of the process moving forward. That we could use the Roma professionals to help understand how important data was to tell our story, and that really focusing on outcomes is important to us. That if we have clear evidence of the effectiveness of what we do, then we can talk about our results, not just about services that we provide. Uh, so we want to kind of leave with the idea of this collective action. So the Roma Alliance in California is one vehicle for collective action, but there are other ways to promote coalition building. And we understand that there are small agencies in California as well that might need the support of their peers. And so just to be conscientious about supporting each other as we go forward. So we just real quickly want to talk about um, how we'll renew the active status of the Roma representatives as we go forward. And we just want to have an annual check-in to verify that you're still there. And there will be an every other year survey of your activities and your plans. And so uh, there will be a way for you to log in to, and I think it's already on the site. I think there's already a tab on the site, although our website is suffering some server problems these yesterday and today. We hope to be better, but we'll ask you to just verify that you're still there, that your contact information is correct, that you haven't changed your title or your email address or your phone number. And then every other year, we'll ask you to give us a couple sentences about what you've been doing that will help us understand what your role has been both at your agency and in the network at large. And then we'll ask you to think about what your plan is moving forward. So what will you be doing in the future? So that's coming up for October this year, that just the check-in of contact information, and then October of the following year when the CAP plans and the templates are due to be reviewed, we'll ask what you've done and what you plan to do. There's a My Info tab on our website. You can look and make sure that we have the right information there. You can actually update your information anytime. You don't have to wait till October. So if you have a change in status, a change in title, please go in and update that contact information when you can. And anytime that you make a change, you can notify us that you have completed that. And then this is the tab that will lead you to the every other year renewal survey. And you'll be reporting on continuing education, although you aren't required to do the ISEP hours. So any questions about what I've talked about so far? Any questions from the group?
I do, Barbara. Will candidates be notified or reminded when they have to do either the renewal survey or the check-in, or is that something that's on them to follow up?
It typically has been on the individual to maintain their active status. One of the reasons is because it's on the anniversary of your certification for the national group, and so that it happens every month. So we haven't done that for this group, because everyone will be ready in October. We could send out a reminder in mid-September, and I'm sure the coalition will help us and the association will help us with that kind of outreach, just to make sure that people are reminded.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts, Lawrence? I just said you might help us, assuming that would be okay.
Yeah, that's totally fine, Barbara. And we may even be able to help if you want to explore, adding an automation to your system to send those reminders out on a regular basis. We've been getting
Yeah. Okay.
automation work lately, so
yeah, we might be calling on you to automate a lot of things, since our server is
hey, maybe
having a problem with our server.
Kid you not, right after this, I'm attending an AI training.
Me too.
Region
The
4. Oh yeah,
Kentucky
all
group.
right. So
That's
look
right.
forward to
That's
that
right.
too, right? Yeah, we'll
Yes,
learn it
yeah.
all. We'll know how
We'll
to do
learn.
it.
Okay. So Haida, yes, we'll figure it out amongst ourselves. So
Excellent.
we'll be
Excellent.
good. Thank you. So levels of certification. I think trainer, the phase one is the e-course for both implementer and trainer. And this would be something that would be waived for the Roma representative, because you've already done the basic understanding. What the e-course is, if you're going to tell your peers who might want to become certified, nationally certified, is that the phase one e-course is just an introduction to the principles, and we'll repeat the same principles again and again as a way to assure that there's some understanding. Okay, here we go. Carrie, do you want to talk about nationally certified Roma implementers?
Yeah, sure. So if you decide to go beyond the Roma representative status and become either an implementer or a trainer, you will get the opportunity to interact with Dr. Mooney, Dr. PJ, and myself on those levels as well. So if you decide that you want to go the implementer track, you've got that great foundation because of the work that you've already done. And a real benefit of deciding to go into implementer status is when you started to compile your, I don't think we called it a portfolio, but when you started to compile some of the data for your own process, you actually ended up starting.
That has been done complete. If they've not used
got
any
it.
of their funds.
Well, I thought I did.
Okay, thanks, Barbara. So so you started that process by going through your own documents, finding examples of where principles were applied or where maybe some things might need to be improved. So I'm hopeful that Tiffany will underscore this here in just a moment, but you've got a little bit of an easier lift going into phase 2 because you've already started, or phase 3 rather, you've already started some of that work. So for the implementer track, you would come and join a cohort to meet together over the course of 1 week. Those would be, typically we do a Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 3 hours, and you actually get to then start putting in information into your portfolio, and you'll get a little bit more of an in-depth opportunity to think about some of the concepts that you started to learn and apply when you went through the representative track. Once you complete phase 2, you of course do phase 3, which is the portfolio, and then you move on to phase 4, which is an exam. And what we are assuming and would like to have the data to back it up and test that assumption is that those folks that come into the process already with the Roma reviewer certificate, that you'll advance more quickly through those final phases.
Yeah, and just a couple things that we've said that the Roma representatives would not have to attend phase 2, but we would ask Tiffany to tell us whether she felt that attending phase 2 was useful in the development of her portfolio. I don't know if you feel like speaking.
Sure, I'm happy to share. And yeah, I really appreciated that, that option was there, that if you wish to attend or not attend, but honestly, I couldn't imagine doing this without having attended phase 2. It just gives you that chance to go over what we had done in the reviewer, and then also to sit down with a whole new cohort of people. I think the one thing that's exciting about community actions is we don't do this alone. We don't come up with these ideas by ourselves. And so being able to sit down with people from all over the country who are doing some things similar and different to what NCO is doing also helped me kind of get that really wide range about, what we were doing. And it really helped to be going through the portfolio as we were doing phase 2 and, adding in our little notes and don't forget about this. So it just made that process so much easier. And we sat down with that big body of work to create the portfolio that you kind of had that confidence. And so I really would recommend it. If you can fit it into your schedule, I think it makes the process more thorough.
And when we got to the phase through the portfolio, did you use a lot of what you had in your reviewer work, or did you find there were different kinds of questions, or that?
So I made a lot of notes when we were in phase 2, and I tried not to go back to the reviewer. I wanted to just be fresh and move forward. So I actually, although all that knowledge was in my head still, I didn't go back to my old portfolio. I went ahead and just looked at this as new with this new body of information that I had. So it was good because things didn't feel completely brand new, but I did try to look at them as new as possible.
Okay, great. So, like Tiffany says, you have the work in your mind. At any rate, you've done a lot of the concepts, but you're entering things on an online portfolio, and then you're responding to some questions in the exam, which is also done online. And you're just finishing up with that now, Tiffany, right?
Yeah, very excited. My portfolio got accepted. And so, yeah, now I'm just going back on the final exam and I'm fixing up some answers there. And yeah, I'm wanting to get that all done so I can have a good long weekend, knowing that that is all turned in.
Good, good. Okay, thank
We'll
you.
make that happen, Tiffany.
So becoming a trainer is a little bit a different track because you are learning to deliver a standard set of material. And I think that's the most important part, is that anybody could pick up the Roma material. They could use the Roma Introduction to Roma participant manual and walk through some of the ideas. But what the trainer has is the wealth of knowledge of hundreds of trainers who have come before and who have learned about how to explain the principles and so the activities that are part of the standard Introduction to Roma curriculum are what they learn to deliver. We have a set, sort of a non-flexible set of principles that we believe to be, we meaning not just but Carrie and PJ and I, but the body of Roma professionals across the country who we're in contact with regularly through the recertification process, but also through other ways to have feedback as to how did this activity work? Oh, I learned this, or here's something that I suggest we do. So we have two parts of the phase. Part one is the presentation of the basic information and the basic activities, and that's done by certified Roma trainers. And then part two is when the candidates get to present segments of the curriculum. So it's their first time in presenting the material, so we can help them follow the guidance and practice the delivery of the material. So it's 3 days. Typically, we have either 2 or 3 participants, candidates, deliver each of those 3 days. So the cohort might be anywhere from 6 to 9 people, and they deliver. I would be on a team with PJ and Carrie, say on Monday, and then Haida and Velma and Sandra might be on a team on Wednesday, and so on. And the other 3 groups would be on Friday, and we would present our part of the curriculum. And that's our first opportunity to practice. But that's not the only opportunity. We want you to practice delivering the material with real people, so you have a sense of what works and what doesn't work. You're delivering the material, you're learning more about how to interact with your participants. And then you deliver one more time with a master trainer providing an evaluation and a score. So the trainer part has these phase 3 and phase 4, which is done independently of the national project. We're part if we're invited, but often the candidates work with the association or with the state to be part of a system. Let me go back here so it's not confusing. But yeah. So sorry. So it's something that is done independently, and this takes some time, and you have to practice. If you're going to deliver 3 hours of training, it might take you 3 hours to practice to know what it is that you're going to do. So it's more time consuming on some levels than being the implementer. And there's a different goal at the end of this, would be to be able to then share the Roma curriculum material. It's not to work with your agency as the implementer does, but it's really to, I mean, you would work with your own agency, of course, but it would be to work with the association and the state office and your neighboring states even to provide the Roma material. PJ, Carrie, anything I forgot about that or any questions from the group?
No, just that practice in front of the trainers is great, and the practice in front of your friends, people in the staff, what have you, gives you a comfort level so that when you actually are certified and go out and train, you feel much more comfortable.
And Barbara, if I may,
Yes.
from our California perspective, sometimes there's a little bit of a misconception about the trainer versus implementer and what's expected afterward. The trainer piece really is part of the network. So, if we're getting into trainer, our recommendations have been, if the agency is very large and you're going to have introduction to Roma trained on kind of a regular basis, even if it's annual or like a new hire employee kind of a recurrence.
Onboarding, yeah.
Yeah, onboarding, that makes a lot of sense. Beyond that, we tap the trainer network to participate in introduction to Roma across the state as well. And a lot of folks don't realize that, I think. So if you're considering trainer, know that also you become one of many trainers that are available for training introduction to Roma across California and the country for that matter. So it's really, really cool, but pick the right certification,
Right. And we've had people in the past become trainers because there wasn't an alternative. And now that we have the alternative, it gives people really, if you're a person that does not want to get up in front of a group, you would not want to be a trainer. And we don't teach you how to become a trainer. We only teach you the curriculum material. So you should come to us with previous training experience. That's another piece that's a difference. Okay. Then I'd say, any other comments from you guys? It's updating. So that,
Can I just leave?
Yeah.
Okay, I knew it was updating, but I thought I hit shut down.
okay,
Stay
all right.
away with
Bye bye.
I'll see you next week.
Okay.
Let me know what you hear on the video.
Okay. So any other questions about trainer? Okay. And then thanks really to David Knight at the California Association. We created a new level of certification called the Advocate. David said, Barbara, I'm not doing introduction to Roma training every year, but I'm deeply involved in creating the support services for Roma and advocating for Roma. And don't you think I should have status? And so we thought about it. We asked a lot of people. We did a lot of what we always do when we try to make a decision is we assess the network. And so we sent a lot of surveys out and we called people up. We had focus groups and we decided that yes, we want to be able to maintain on our roles as certified Roma professionals, people who have a commitment to Roma, but might not be in a role any longer where maybe they're not going to be an implementer at an agency anymore. And so they don't need to do Roma audits every year or sign off on their agency plans. So what do they need to do? So we created the certification status for someone who's been a trainer or an implementer, but no longer responsible for those duties that are associated with those levels. And so they're still active in the Community Action Network and they're in a recognized capacity. So a lot of the folks that we have who are advocates are at state offices. They might have started out at a local agency and they moved to a state office, or they're at one of the national partners. They're at NASCAS, where they're at the partnership. So they're still in a recognized role in community action, but they're not required to do the annual training that the Roma trainers are required to do, and they're not required to do the annual audit or checklist of Roma implementation that we ask the implementers to do. So, so that's really a level beyond for folks. It's almost like a professor emeritus, you might think, someone that's not doing this, the direct service work, but is still a supporter or an advocate, which is why we chose that term. Any thoughts or questions about any of those three?
I have a question, Barbara, just for clarity's sake. If some of our car folks want to become an advocate or need to move in that direction, what is the path for them?
So we don't have a path from a certificate to a certification. We right at this time, we would have the advocate only is this next step from a trainer or an implementer from a national certified status. So we're hoping that Roma representatives would be interested in becoming either implementers or trainers, and then if their job duties would end, that then they could become an advocate. But again, we're new with the advocates. I think we've had advocates for 3 years now, and we're drawing from them what they do, what their responsibility should be to create more structure for the advocates. So since we don't know what will happen with the Roma reps, we're really open to however that develops forward. So we would have to talk to folks about that as they move along. It's a good question. I mean, and it's a question for all of us to think about how that might work.
Hey, Barbara, if you don't mind, we've got some breaking news
Okay.
from David Bradley. I just dropped it in the chat, and those who subscribe to Cap Facts will have gotten this just now. But great news, third and fourth quarter CSBG money has been released. So congratulations, this feels like congratulations, everyone.
Yay, us. That's fabulous.
6 more months. Yes.
That's great. That's great.
It is
Absolutely
good.
great.
It is really, really good.
So that means that we'll be around for October when we want to do our renewals.
So go ahead and sign up to move to implementer or trainer status while you have the capacity to do so. Thanks for sharing that, Lawrence. We all need some good news.
As we think about going forward, just as we close our discussion today, is really to use the Roma questions, the things that we have as part of the foundational processes that we're engaged in, is to really think about what's your plan over the next year. What do you want to see change, and what's worked, what needs to be strengthened, what should be abandoned, what's the prior experience that you have, what was hard, what was easy, who helped you, and what resources did you use. These are just some questions that we ask you to think about as you think about what you can do, both as a Roma representative and to be involved with the national network of your peers as we go forward. So what's next for all of us is really up to you all. So I'm just going to stop sharing and open for any questions or comments before we go. If you feel I should stop the recording for comments, I can do that. Okay.
I'd be curious to know, since it's been a little bit of time since the process, how are people actually using the new skills and knowledge? Are you finding ways to incorporate it into your practice?
And there's the question in the chat that we always get, will the recording be shared? Yes, we actually were asked to record it in order to share it for folks who were unable to join. I guess a lot of people are taking a long weekend starting today. So so that's good for all of them, and we want to make sure to encourage that. Self-care is important. So thanks, Claudia, for asking that question. And yes, we'll be sharing. Okay, I am going to pause or stop. Let's just stop.
Barbara, I'm sorry. I